So if you received a 1099-C from a credit card company or a creditor, you may be entitled to some money, especially if you got one from Discover Synchrony Bank, perhaps. Now, the way this works out is if you get a 1099-C from a credit card company or anybody you owe money to, it means that they have forgiven the debt, and it is time for you to declare that as income on your taxes. Now, after watching this video, you'll become an expert in how to deal with each of the creditors, how to correct your credit report after a 1099-C has been issued as well. So let's get into what exactly is a 1099-C, and when you get it, how you recognize it, what it looks like. Now, here's a sample 1099-C. As you could see, if you zoom in on it, it will tell you the year it's been issued in, which is 2022. It'll tell you the name of the person that it's issued to and the amount. So this is kind of like, it almost looks like an official IRS document. So this one was issued by Synchrony Bank, as you could see, for the amount of $2,200 on 10/22. So your 1099-C will look something like this. This was issued from the bank to the consumer. Now, here is basically one of the successful cases where we've had with Synchrony Bank, where we were able to get the credit reporting corrected for our client as such. Now, the process looks something like this. If you get a 1099-C, the first thing to do is to check your credit report. Now, if a 1099-C has been issued, it means that the debt has been forgiven, and the creditor on their records in their system has reported to the IRS that this is a bad debt and it's been written off. That is not the same thing as a charge-off, which is merely a credit reporting term, whereas a write-off is an accounting term. So those are two separate things, important for you to understand that. So if you see something's been charged off on your credit report, it doesn't mean it's been written off. So in order for something to be written off, you must receive a 1099-C. So once you receive a 1099-C, in this process, you basically go and do your discovery and check your latest credit report and see whether there's still a balance reporting or not. So if a 1099-C has been issued on your collection or charge-off account, at that particular point, that charge-off needs to go to a zero balance. That is often not done, especially with the likes of Discover Bank and Synchrony. So the next thing you're going to do after that is, if you find a balance, you're going to do a credit bureau dispute with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You're going to attach a copy of your 1099-C and say the balance needs to be zeroed out. And you're going to submit that dispute with that proof of your 1099-C. The next thing is, if you go down this chart, you're going to check your credit report after 30 days to see what was the results of the investigation. Was the item corrected where the balance was zeroed out? That means that you were successful. Now, if the item was not corrected despite you submitting a 1099-C to proof to the credit bureaus, then reach out to us, reach out to IMAX Credit at www.imaxcredit.com, or help@imaxcredit.com is where you can email us, or use the email below in this chart. Now, I say that is that once you reach out to us, we're going to review your file, and you may be entitled to some damages. We've gotten people thousands of dollars with the help of our associate attorneys, where we sued the creditor for damages, because the law states that once you receive a 1099-C, you on your end need to declare it as income on your taxes, and the creditor at their end needs to delete the balance from the credit report to show that the balance is zero. Although they're not required to delete the account, they could still report it as a charged off account with a zero balance. Now, once you reach out to us, we'll review your case. If we could take on your case, the next thing we do is, with the help of our attorneys, we'll file either a federal suit or there'll be a arbitration case filed. And once that's done, then the credit bureaus and the creditor may be pursued for damages that you get at that particular point. And often if we're taking legal action against the creditor, but not only is the balance zeroed out, the item's also deleted, in addition to you getting monetary damages. Now, what if you get a 1099-C and there's a zero balance and it's still showing as a charge-off? Well, the charge-off still shows a negative history. It still impacts your credit score negatively. You could reach out to us and see what we could do to delete the charge-off, although you may not be entitled to damages, but there's a possibility we could get the charge-off removed from the credit report using other means around coding violations as such. So that basically is the process in a nutshell. So if you've got a 1099-C, to reiterate, the first thing you need to do is go ahead and make sure that the balance is zeroed out on your credit report. The second step is, if it's not zeroed out, you submit a credit bureau dispute and make sure in your dispute to each of the 3 credit bureaus, you attach a copy of the 1099-C. Now that credit bureau dispute will go to the creditor directly, and the creditor will verify yes or no if the balance is accurate. And a lot of times, if they're still reporting a balance, they'll basically report it as accurate. And at that particular point, violations have been triggered, and you'll be reaching out to us to see what we could do vis-a-vis getting you monetary damages. Now, some of you who are listening to only the audio, there should be links in the description of the podcast to see this flow chart that I've basically shown in all the illustrations. One thing I also want to tell you is, if you've received a 1099-C, for instance, let's just say you've got a $2,000 debt, you received a 1099-C from the creditor for $2,000. You must report that to the IRS as income. And not doing so will definitely make the IRS unhappy, and they may go ahead and assess taxes themselves and penalties also. So it's important that when you get a 1099-C, that you report that as income on your taxes, just like you get, a W-2 to report as income. When you do your taxes, a 1099-C will basically be added to the W-2 amount, and your accountant will be able to figure out what your tax liability is at that particular point. So I hope this video was helpful. And like I said, a charge-off is not a 1099-C, only a write-off is. So keep an eye out in the mail for anything that you get from creditors. And again, if you've been issued a 1099-C, especially from Discover or any other creditor, and they haven't zeroed out the balance, then reach out to us, help@imaxcredit.com, and we could figure out what we can do to help. Hope this video is helpful.